They told us crimes were going down. In fact, crimes are going up. Violent crime fell by 2.1%. That's what they said. This quickly became and remains a Democratic Party talking point to counter Trump's claim of soaring crime. Liars. There were 80,000 more violent crimes than there were in 2021. That's a lot.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof.
The FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
The FBI, they were defrauding statements.
The FBI lied again. They told us that the stats for crimes were down. Turns out they're not, they're up, and their revision just happened right after they were able to provide Kamala Harris a talking point that she could use in the debate, which she did, and the fact checkers fact-checked Trump. Problem is, the fact checkers were wrong because the FBI now revised their crime stats. Report comes from Real Clear Investigations. It's got the charts, it's got the details, but they told us crimes were going down. In fact, crimes are going up. As you can see, none of these in these violent crime categories are going down. And let's go through the numbers as explained here, saying that when the FBI originally released the quote final crime data for 2022, it reported that violent crime fell by 2.1%. That's what they said. These are our final numbers, okay? Final. Minus 2.1, down. This quickly became and remains a Democratic Party talking point to counter Trump's claim of soaring crime. Now, this is an exact situation that we saw in 2020. The intelligence agencies, like the FBI and the CIA, create fake talking points. They do it explicitly, and then they feed them to the Democrats, and the Democrats use that. Literally what happened, Michael Morrell, ex-acting CIA director with the CIA, met with Anthony Blinken, created the 51 intelligence agents letter that they then fed to Biden, and he used it at the debate. Same thing happened here. FBI rigged the numbers, fed them to Kamala and the fact checkers, used it, and then revised the numbers after the fact. The FBI quietly revised those numbers, releasing new data that shows violent crime increased by 4.5%. It dropped, they said, it fell by 2.1, minus 2.1, all the way up to plus 4.5. That's a lie. The new data includes thousands more murders, rapes, robberies, and aggravated assaults. The Bureau, which has been at the center of these storms, made no mentions of these revisions in its last press release in September. The RCI, Real Clear Investigations, discovered the change through a cryptic reference on the FBI's website. Where the hell did these numbers come from? They check it out. The website states, well, the 2022 violent crime rates have been updated for inclusion in CIUS, C-I-U-S, 2023, that one sentence. That's the explanation of their revision. That actually changes it from a drop in crime to an increase in crime. But there is no mention that the numbers increased, of course. One can only see the change by downloading the new crime data and comparing it to the file that they released last year. Okay, so they buried it. After the FBI released its new crime data in September, the USA headline read, "Violent crime dropped for third straight year in 2023, including murder and rape." Liars. It's been 3 weeks since the FBI released this new data. The Bureau's lack of acknowledgement about the significant change concerns people. Carl Moody, a professor at a college, said, "I've checked the data on total violent crime from 2004 to 2022. There were no revisions from 2004 to 2015, and then from 2016 to 2020, there were small changes of less than 1 percentage point. Those were during the Trump years. Nobody changed it, very little. Then Trump makes some small changes. Then there are huge changes, like, marginal adjustments. Then there are huge changes, less than 1 percentage point changes. Biden comes in 2021 and 22, especially without an explanation. They just change it, make it difficult to trust the FBI data." This is some, college professor, Carl Moody, who's been checking data for decades. "It's up to the FBI to explain what they've done, and they haven't explained these changes," says Dr. Thomas. "The FBI did not respond to our request for comments, and the actual changes in crimes are extensive. They're total liars." They updated data for 2022 report that there were 80,000 more violent crimes than there were in 2021. That's a lot. There were an additional 1,700 murders, 7,800 rapes, 33,000 robberies, 37,000 ag assaults. The question naturally arises, should the FBI's 2023 numbers be believed? No, nobody at the FBI should be believed. Without the increase, the drop in violent crime in 2023 would have been less than half as large, only 1.6% instead of a drop of 3.5. Now, the FBI isn't the only agency that's been revising its data, because they'll come back next year and revise the 2023 data, right? That's the point, if they win. The Bureau of Labor Statistics massively overestimated the number of jobs that was created during the year that ended in March by 818,000 people. Oops, little rounding error. Almost a million people. The FBI's crime stat revisions reveal how much guesswork is involved. They don't simply count reported crimes, okay? It offers estimates by extrapolating data from police departments that report only partial year data. It's just made up, okay? What we see is fake. Your job is to create estimates of the data and extrapolate data. How much time and resources has gone into extrapolating the data? Why don't we just get the reports? The Bureau also makes estimates for cities that report no data, or we just have good numbers. So they just make up the numbers, right? We just say we either have the numbers or we don't. They just make it up. Their method of generating these estimates changes over time, and it affects the figures they report based on the election, obviously. So their processes, such as how it tries to estimate unreported figures, has long been a black box. They just make it up. No, it's going down when a Democrat's in charge, and it's going up when a Republican's in charge. Another problem with the crime data is its reliance on reported crimes. Most crimes go unreported, with only about 45% of violent crimes and 30% of property crimes actually being brought to the attention of the police. Since the FBI only tracks reported instances, and this incident is so large, researchers argue that when the media discusses crime rates based on FBI data, they should clarify, there it is, that it reflects reported crime, not the given impression that total crime is changing. Yeah, right, just clarify that. Non-reporting of crime doesn't affect all crimes equally. Non-reporting of murder and MVD is relatively rare, but murder cases, victims can't be overlooked. So they just take stuff that applies to certain crimes and apply it to all crimes. Although recent attention is focused on the decline in murder rates, even with the revised numbers, the 16% drop from 2020 to 2023 still leave murder rates 9.6 higher than pre-COVID levels. Yeah, so it's dropped, but it's still high. A half century ago, the DOJ provided total crime measure, including both reported and unreported crime, right? That's an actual metric that matters. But they tell a very different story. The NCVS interviews 240,000 people each year about their personal experiences. Now, instead of the FBI's 3.5% drop in the reported violent crime in 2023, NCVS found an increase. Even with the revised 2022 numbers, the FBI's 4.5 increase in 2022 pales in comparison with the NCVS's their estimate, which is a 29.1% increase. Yeah. And look, I don't know what is happening in your particular state or downtown area or region, but the crime and the homelessness and the street stuff that's happening is coming up organically in conversations now. I'm not even bringing it up. Went to lunch, somebody says, yeah, man, there's a lot of crackheads out by our neighborhood. I'm like, what? Where are you at? He's like, over here. I'm like, really? By you? Yeah. Where? In that little corner bus stop. Nobody does anything about it. Okay. Wow. That's amazing, because that's a nice neighborhood. There are no longer responding to calls unless the perpetrator is still there actively committing the crime. Instead of police coming out to investigate and take a report, some people will go in, wait in lines. And so they're trying to measure this stuff. You just have to say what you're measuring and report it so we know what the numbers mean. With the media using the 2022 FBI data, they told us crime is falling, but that's not true. It's a misimpression. Even as polls show Americans are concerned about crime, the FBI and media are making it difficult to know the truth about what's happening. The report is stunning, said David Mustard, because it now doesn't state that violent crime in 2022 was much higher than it was previously reported, nor does it explain why the new rate is so much higher. It issues no press release about this large revision at all. The lack of transparency harms the FBI's credibility. There you go. That's David Mustard, the Josiah Meigs Distinguished Professor at the University of Georgia. He's not going to call them liars, but I will. So yeah, he's right about that. It does hurt their credibility, and it proves Trump is right about everything. So here's what he said. Crime rates are going up. Obviously, that's true. ABC had to fact check him using fake revised FBI numbers.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst.
There you go, right? And he was exactly right about that. Their statements were fraudulent. He knew it. We know it. He's vindicated yet again. Will the FBI come out and apologize? Will the ABC news anchors come out and issue a retraction? Not going to happen. But fortunately, we know the truth.